At the start, we are introduced to an elderly man named Hori who lives alone in his house. His wife passed away decades ago, and his beloved dog ran away recently. Ever since, Hori has lost his purpose in life as he has no one to talk to. He spends most of his time going through pictures of his wife and reminiscing the good times they spent together. But one morning, he wakes up and decides to do something drastic. Hori buys a dating magazine and picks up a beautiful young woman named Leslie. He wants to date her and eventually make her his wife. But since Hori is old and wrinkly, seducing her is going to be a near impossible task. So he decides to do the unimaginable. That is, to transform himself into a young and handsome man. Normally, people undergo medical procedures or train themselves to the limit to appear younger. However, Hori is impatient, and he doesn't have the funds to visit a doctor. Hence, he begins the transformation using different objects he finds in his house. At first, he takes a small hacksaw blade and trims off the old flesh from his feet. Hori doesn't feel any pain during the whole procedure, but instead, he gets tickled. And after this, he puts molten wax in both of his ears and pulls them out once they solidify. This causes blood to come out of his ears. And once that's done, Hori paints his teeth with correction fluid and puts powder all over his face. He also plucks out eyeballs from a creepy-looking doll and fits it into his eye socket. As for the wrinkly face, Hori has a brilliant idea in mind. He stretches his skin and ties it behind his neck with some safety pins. How does this guy know my exact routine for going out on Sunday nights? Following this, he undergoes some more modifications with the help of scissors, spray paint, blow dryers, medical pills, and even hammers to give him a youthful appearance. After putting on a wig, Hori zaps himself with high voltage current to get his long lost energy back.
Alright, let's see. Whoa, yeah, here we go, buddy.
When he is finally done with his transformation, surprisingly, we see a completely changed man. He has a dashing appearance with a killer smile, something which is surely going to seduce girls. In the next scene, Hori sets out to meet the love of his life. With a small gift in hand, he is certain that he can win over Leslie's heart. As expected, he does just that. Later, we see the two having a romantic time. They eat ice cream from the same bowl, run along the beach, go to a party, and also watch the sunset together. The only problem is that Leslie's tiny dog, Bacon, seems to dislike Hori. He keeps barking at the man, indicating that he has caught wind of the deceit.
You're freaking old. You're freaking old.
Nonetheless, Hori continues with his ways and takes things one step further by gifting Leslie his vintage Riley car. That evening, they venture out for a ride, and it appears as if Hori and Leslie are in a fairy tale. There are birds all around, and the smell of flowers has enchanted the environment. However, things take a bad turn for Hori when the car runs into some potholes, leaving his already fragile body in a precarious state as he tries to handle the situation. Suddenly, Leslie sneezes, and her face gets stuck on the windshield. In a shocking turn of events, it is revealed that she, too, is an elderly woman who had undergone extreme transformation to appear youthful. Hori is left stunned by the sight, and the next second, his body also comes loose, revealing his original form. Initially, the two just stare at each other in shock, but then they become excited and start making out. The movie ends as Bacon the dog also discloses his real face, which turns out to be old and ugly.
But he's still a good boy, though.
The second movie takes place in a much darker and gloomier setting. At the start, we see three kids heading towards an abandoned house, which is known as Ghost Train. Among them is a bully named Peter, and it turns out that he has forcefully brought the other kids, Michael and Sam, along with him. When they reach the place, they are terrified to see its state. A giant Grim Reaper looms above the house, and several decapitated heads are seen hanging from the ceiling. The youngest kid, Sam, wants to run to the beach, but Peter doesn't let him go. After a while, they spot a skull on the wall, which is revealed to be the ticket machine. A sign next to it says, £1 per ride, please. Without wasting any time, Peter asks the boys to bring out whatever money they have. Sam is still hesitant about the whole idea, but he has no choice but to forfeit his 50p coin. The hell else is he gonna do with it anyway? Once the collection is finally done, Michael nervously approaches the skull and starts feeding it with the coins. Suddenly, the ground shakes, and cockroaches begin to come out of cracks. The giant Grim Reaper also moves, ready to cause havoc. But a few seconds later, it stops, and everything comes to a halt. This enrages the bully Peter so much that he approaches the skull and starts bashing it with a stick. The other boys shout at him to stop, fearing that they will face some deadly backlash, but Peter does not listen. Eventually, he breaks the skull, and as soon as he does so, the door opens. The next second, poor Sam is hauled inside the house in a wagon, and before the boys can do something about it, the door closes. This is the last time he was ever seen. Now Peter and Michael have to explain to Dates why they're afraid of wagons for the rest of their lives. 30 years later, Michael and Peter go to the same abandoned house to pay their respects. It turns out they come here every year to grieve the loss of their dear friend. Michael seems to have become a wealthy businessman, but Peter is a mere cab driver whose life has been derailed by alcoholism. As Michael lays on the flowers, Peter reveals that he still has nightmares about that day. He also blames himself for dragging poor Sam to the abandoned house when all he wanted was to go to the beach. However, Michael says that it wasn't his fault. In a shocking turn of events, it is revealed that Michael didn't actually put the last coin inside the skull, and that is why the Grim Reaper stopped midway. He was too scared to do it, something which he regrets to this day. The revelation shocks Peter, but he decides to forgive his friend, and just like the last time, he orders him to put the coin inside the skull to check what happens. Michael, who also wants to know the truth, obliges without thinking much. As soon as the coin is entered, the ground begins to shake and the Grim Reaper rises. Then, the door opens, and from it emerges the same wagon from 30 years ago. As the two friends watch in horror, a ghastly white boy comes out of the wagon. He is none other than Sam, the boy who everyone thought was dead. In a state of shock and utter disbelief, Michael approaches his childhood friend and tries to initiate a conversation. Unfortunately, this turns out to be a bad idea, as the freak boy is not the same Sam anymore. He has come only for one reason: revenge. In the blink of an eye, he snaps Michael's neck and renders him unconscious, or probably dead though. After this, he goes after his childhood bully, Peter, and brutally finishes him off, splattering blood all over the car's windshield in the process. At last, a paralyzed Michael, who is lying on the floor, thinks to himself, what if we went to the beach instead?
Hey mate, that script was almost as dumb as beans for breakfast, you know what I'm saying?
The third movie opens up in an Indian village where two siblings, Veer and Mira, arrive home to check up on their sick father, Rajendra. They both live in the cities and are meeting each other for the first time in years. Turns out, Rajendra has texted them that he is going to die soon. But, to their shock, he is alive and well, preparing food in the kitchen. The siblings angrily confront the old man, demanding why he lied to them when he knew that they have busy schedules. In response, Rajendra says that he has to discuss something very important. Following this, the family heads to the living room where they sit down and have a small talk. Unfortunately, the siblings start bickering as they blame one another for their sorry state. It is revealed that their mother is in the next room, completely paralyzed and unable to talk. Although the kids love her very much, they cannot see her in this state anymore. As the conversation wears on, we get to know some more secrets about the family. The son, Veer, is revealed to be a gambler who has stolen jewelry from the house before and is dealing with dangerous drug addicts and other criminals, while the daughter, Mira, is a lesbian who ran away from home to live with her girlfriend. At present, she is failing to adopt a child. The siblings are at complete odds as they think of each other as failures. But let's be real, Veer is definitely the failure here, right? Am I crazy? When the argument starts getting violent, Rajendra intervenes and hands them a box. Inside of it, Veer and Mira find several toys from their childhood, which brings an instant smile to their faces. For a split second, they forget all their worries and rejoice in the moment. However, their happiness is short-lived as Rajendra drops a bombshell. He reveals that he has actually sold this house, and the new owners are moving in the very next day. The children are left infuriated by the news, and they inquire why such a big decision was taken without their consultation. The old man defends himself by mentioning that he built the house, and he had every right to sell it. With the money gained from it, he now plans to live the rest of his life in the city. As the children listen in shock, Rajendra then says, "Which one of you is going to take care of your mother?"
Oh, snap.
In the next scene, when the old man heads to his room to pack his belongings, the siblings calmly discuss the matter. Veer asserts that he lives with dangerous people, so keeping his mom with him won't be a good idea. In response, Mira says that she's going to adopt the child soon, so she won't have time for anything else. Their peaceful conversation once again turns into an argument, as both of them don't want anything to do with their ailing mother. Right then, Rajendra appears next to them and drops yet another bombshell. He explains that he has injected their mom with a deadly poison, and in 2 hours, she is going to pass away without any pain. As expected, this angers the children, and they start calling him a murderer. They then proceed to call the cops, but Rajendra stops them and explains how his life has become hell nowadays. Every day, he has to feed his wife, clean her feces-stained bed sheets, and change her clothes. He then has to wash those clothes and dry them to make sure that she doesn't develop rashes. Rajendra is tired of this life, and the worst part of it is that his children are never around to support him. Before leaving, he brings out a syringe and reveals that it is the antidote to the poison he administered to his wife earlier. He then hands it over to his children, saying that whosoever wants to save her will have to take care of her for the rest of her life. The movie ends as Rajendra walks out of the house with his belongings, while his children are left contemplating if they should save their poor old mother or not.
Oh, dark.
Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.